So tonight I'm gonna say some stuff that I've never said anywhere that I think I've ever said. I don't remember ever saying it. I'm gonna use a word that I've never used before, community leader. I'm not a community leader, but I've inherited community leader responsibilities. And some of that responsibility is to tell stories and to report out to the community what's going on. And you are the community that we serve, and so I wanna report out to the community. And we're talking about education right now, and since we're talking about education, I remember coming into the DBG one day. I walked into the building, and I seen a young man, he was sitting to the side. And I was like, man, why you sitting to the side? He said, that teacher you just hired, he put me out. I said, we don't put kids out. I said, tell me what happened. He said, man, they were passing the paper around writing lyrics to a song. I said, walk me through it. He said, the teacher said, do y'all like music? And everybody said, yeah. And he said, well, write a lyric, and then you hand it to another guy, and write a lyric, and he handed it to another guy. And when they handed it to me, I passed it to somebody else. He said, no, do you like music? I said, yeah. He said, write a lyric down. He said, I don't want to. And he passed it to somebody else. So he said, man, you don't like music, get out of my class, and put him out. I said, okay. I said, let me ask you a question. Do you like music? The young man said, yes, I like music. I said, let me ask you another question. Do you have trouble spelling? And he said, yeah. I said, I got you. I said, go back in there and ask the teacher, can you have a moment with him and explain to him that you have trouble spelling? And before you know it, those two were close like this. They were that close. But I recognized something in that situation, in that scenario. That was one of the things that I used to do. I went through Detroit Public Schools. I made it to the 3rd grade, and in the 3rd grade, I realized I couldn't read or write. Read, write, spell, count, none of that. I couldn't do none of it. I was illiterate, for real, 3rd grade. But instead of somebody having that moment right there with me, they told me, you're gonna be dead or in jail before you're 21. You always acting out, you always disruptive, you this. Imagine that to a 3rd grader, tell them you're gonna be dead or in jail. And when I got to and they passed me along too. That didn't stop them from passing me to the 4th grade. I made it to the 4th grade. And then they threw on another one on top of that. You're not gonna even be able to work as a garbage man or even work at McDonald's. It's like, I don't want to be on garbage man, no way, you know what I'm saying? So, but I figured out how to manipulate the system too, because I saw that they weren't really trying to do their job. I figured out how to work the system. So I fall asleep, be disruptive, make a noise, crack a joke, and they did exactly what I thought they would do. They didn't take the time to ask me what was really going on in my life. They didn't sit down and talk to me. They sent me to the office. And from the office, they sent me home. Then I got a 3-day vacation. But 3 days of vacation of what? Learning? I didn't get any learning at home. I know somebody gonna say, well, what about your parents? Man, my father came from Mississippi picking cotton to work in the auto industry. He never went to school. He worked 33 years in the automotive industry. He could never read or write. He signed his check with an X and gave it to my mother. She worked cleaning houses because she had to take care of her mother who was blind and couldn't walk. So I was in a house with an adult that couldn't see or walk. I'm not really on punishment. How am I gonna be on punishment? She can't see me. I'm outside. And I'm out there hanging out trying to do whatever I want to do. I'm just having the time of my life, not knowing that my life is just being frozen in time. I can't do anything. I remember the times that I wanted to do some great things. I wanted to do good things. I wanted to be positive. I wanted to be productive. But when it came time where I had to read something, I couldn't. I had to hide in the shadows. I had to hide in the shadows because some adult somewhere took it upon themselves to label me and tell me that I was a bad kid. I wasn't a bad kid. I just hadn't been heard yet. They didn't do their job to figure out what was going on. And that stuff happens to this day right now. I've done it with a lot of young people. I have a bunch of young people with me, and I'll say something like, I'll say, man, you're gonna be dead or in jail before, they'll say 21. I'm like, man, see, they still saying that to this day. I still see kids that I went to the 12th, I'm gonna speed it up. I went to the 12th grade. I went all the way to the 12th grade with this thing, not being able to read or write. I remember coming to the teacher and I said, can you explain this to me? He was like, what's that? I said, my report card. He looked at me, he's like, what are you saying? I said, can you explain my report? He said, if I'm wrong, everybody wrong. And I had all good grades. And I'm like, I don't even know you, guy. You don't even really truly know my name. So I walked down the hallway and I was gonna walk to the other teacher's office. And when I was walking to there, I looked at her, I was like, she really don't know me. Because I skip her class all the time. I walked out the classroom and I said, I'm gonna go all the way and just, cause I'm gonna die young anyway, I'm gonna die before 18. I've been gave up on life. I'm gonna be in jail before I'm 21, so I used to do push-ups and work out. I ain't work out and do push-ups so I can flex in the mirror. I worked out so if I went to prison, I'd be ready to fight. I'd be ready to get busy, be ready to work. Cause wasn't nobody gonna take advantage of me. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I had that mentality. They already created a narrative for me. They do it to this day. They create narratives for people that don't even have a chance to even dream nor express themselves. Our kids are being labeled too soon. You're taking their dreams away from them. Because I stopped dreaming from the 3rd grade. I stopped dreaming. I hit the streets hard. When I dropped out, I hit the streets hard. I wasn't a gang member. I was a gang leader. But before I was 17, before I was 18, I'd already been shot twice. I've been stabbed already. Until one day, my older brother, he came to my neighborhood. He came in my neighborhood. He walked up to my front porch. We walked through about 25, 30 guys. He walked up to my front porch. He said, bro, you do understand the rest of the world don't live like this, right? You do understand that, right? I said, man, get away from my house, man. Go back to where you from. Go back to where you from. He said, no, bro. Ain't no resources in your community. It's nothing, it's no resources. It's nothing positive going on in your community besides guys dying. I said, man, go back to where you from. He said, well, can you come help me at my house? And I'll never forget it. I went to go help him at his house. Man, come on, man, lift this thing. And so he just not lifting his side. I'm like, man, lift your side of the thing, man. Stop playing, lift it. He like, bro, look at that picture. That's the day we was going to skating in Pontiac. I don't know if y'all familiar with Pontiac, Michigan, but Pontiac, Michigan, we was going skating there. He said, look at that picture. He said, this is all my friends. He go, all your friends. He go, all my friends, they all alive. Your friends, he dead, he dead, he dead, he dead. He got 25 years, he got 30, he got natural life. This guy on Detroit Most Wanted, that guy on Michigan's Most Wanted. Your boy right here on America's Most Wanted, man. He said, don't be the next guy on this picture, bro. Don't be the next guy on this picture. And he asked me something that no adult had ever asked me. He said, what do you want to do with your life, bro? Where do you see yourself? What do you want to do with your life? And I said something crazy as Khali would. And he told me to get out of his house. And so he told me to get the F out of his house. So I left. So long story short, I left. But when I got home, I looked at the world differently. When I got back to my neighborhood, I looked at the world differently for real. I started really looking like, man, there's nothing in my community for real. It's really nothing here. It's nothing but death and destruction. I was like, the guy down the street just got killed. They just found my homeboy 3 houses down from me the very next day, and that same day they found 2 bodies on the corner. And I'm like, it's really nothing but death. It's nothing here for me. What do I want to do? I said, I ain't scared of felony indictments. I've been indoctrinated for that. I ain't scared to go to prison. I've been training for that. I ain't scared to die, none of that. But you know what made me scared? And I'm gonna get down here and do it. I'm gonna grab this right here. A piece of paper with letters on it. Scared me to death. I would shake. I would go blind. I would just be paralyzed in fear if you put a book in my face as if I was still in the 3rd grade. You talking about a guy that has seen death up close. I done seen the worst of humanity. I seen it up close. I smelt it. But this right here paralyzed the death out of me. I was scared to death of it. And nobody was there to save me from it. So I said that day, I said, man, I'm gonna change my life. And I went to night school to try to get a GED. Don't laugh at me, but I went in there and said, I want a GED. And they said, man, you can't get a GED. The teacher told me, they said, you can't get a GED. I said, I paid my $40 like everybody else. What you talking about? I can't get no GED. You sound crazy. He like, man, let me talk to you outside, because he saw I was hostile. And so because I was real hostile still at that point. So I go outside in the hallway with him, and he said, you're a very intelligent young man. You're very intelligent, but you can't read or write at all, and I can see it. He said, you got to start from the beginning, man. If you really want to help yourself, you got to start from the beginning. And so that's what I did. I said, if I can sit through all this chaos, I can try to better myself. But I had to make myself a promise. I can't never look back at that. I can only go forward, and I have to completely, that's it, that's over with. I got to be, as they say, resurrected. that gotta go, because you can't put new stuff on top of old. You gotta get rid of that. And I started over. And I went to work and I started, it was hard too. My first job I tried to go to, I practiced all day on how to say stock boy. And I couldn't, when I got there to see the application, I forgot how to spell stock, but hey, I tried. But I ended up getting a job as a maintenance guy, and every day I would go to work and I was working and giving my best. I was working as hard as I possibly could. And long story short, I would see all these young people on the streets on my way. And I say, man, how can I make this not just be about me? How can I make this to a win for our community? How can I share what I'm learning? Because this new joy of not having to order what you ordering. I can order what I want now. I don't have to order what you order because I might not like what you order. I can order my own food now. You know what I mean? And so I was like, how can I share this with everybody? And I started trying to figure out, and it was hard for me to get to the kids. It was hard for me to get to the young people. I didn't have a hook. I didn't have something that would get their attention, because the hood didn't change. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's still trap houses with 550 Benzes sitting in the driveway when a house dilapidated, falling apart. Still 550 sitting out there. Still Bentegas and Bentley Coupes still sitting in front of trap houses. So it's kind of hard for me to get the attention of the young people. But I noticed whenever I would be working out and shadow boxing and doing all this type of stuff and whatever, they didn't know that I was training to go to jail. They just saw me training and they thought it was cool, and their parents thought it, because people was like, man, you know, my uncle used to box Golden Gloves. Man, that's a walk-on tournament. But yeah, your uncle did? Great. This uncle that I've never heard of or seen, that's great. You know what I'm saying? But if that's your thing, come on. And so the kids would come around and I was like, okay, that's the conversation, the icebreaker to the bigger conversation. So I use sports as the icebreaker to the bigger conversation. I never wanted to train the best fighter in the world or somebody to become some mega fighter. I just needed that hour of play. One of the first things I read was, you can ask a person a lifetime of questions and never get the answer. But within an hour of play, they'll tell you everything about them. That was something that Aristotle, I believe, said. And so from there, I started the program. And it started off like that, just with a handful of kids. And from there, we went to the building overflowing with young people. They were all coming in. We got our kids have 100% graduation rate. We got the literacy award from the Library of Congress because of our kids are going to some of the best schools in the country. It's a phenomenal thing. Looking at my time, I got 2 minutes. I got to get it out. Let me see what else. We got a great literacy program, and I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
And we are not a boxing gym.
DBG is an after-school youth program that removes barriers for kids in our community. It's about supporting the dreams of our young people. We provide opportunities to make those dreams come true for real. It's top priority to give the young people in our communities hope.
They take good care of us. Everyone here is like a brother and sister to me.
There's a STEAM lab, there's free transportation, there's one-on-one tutoring.
DBG is all about creating opportunities where students can step into their potential. Chances for students to have new experiences, to explore their interests, to challenge what they think they can and cannot do.
Changes my heart, my feelings, my life. DBG is like the best place I could ever be at.
What makes DBG so incredibly unique is that we start off with relationship building first. We get to know each of our students as individuals, we get to know our families, we get to know the communities that they're coming from, and having that baseline knowledge gives us the ability to make really individualized decisions about the kind of intervention and wraparound services that we provide to them.